Just by the very fact that you're here, I'm guessing you're looking to make big changes to your body. Maybe you're looking like I used to look like, and now you want to create a look more like this, and you want to do everything you can to create the best possible results. What I'm going to do is show you the 3 steps I would take if I was to create the absolute perfect plan, and it starts right now. So really quick before I get into those 3 steps, and please don't skip this. This is massively important. I want to make sure you understand. Well, I'm going to talk about what I consider to be the most optimal way to do things. Optimal doesn't mean anything less than optimal is then completely worthless. The last thing I want you to do is fall into the all or nothing mentality and feel like if you don't be perfect with things, then there's no point whatsoever. That couldn't be further from the truth. For some people, they want to do every little thing they can to get the best possible results, and that excites them. So if that's you, this video is going to be perfect for you. So the first step is going to be about the exercise side of the equation. Now, while most people will argue nutrition is more important than your exercise plan when it comes to changing your body, I actually disagree with that, and I think they're equally important. And one of the reasons for this is because building muscle is the literal best thing you can do, not just because of the look having muscle creates, but both strength training and adding muscle combine to turn your body into a calorie burning machine, thanks to how metabolically demanding muscle is. But also you get something after your training called EPOC, where for the next up to 48 hours after your exercise is done, your body continues to burn additional calories above its baseline. This is not something you get from cardio. Now, I would say if you want to get the absolute most out of your training, you're going to want to lift 5 days per week, and you're going to want to hit each of your muscle groups twice per week, because research has consistently shown hitting your muscle groups twice per week versus just once per week, even when training volume is equated, produces better results. So what I would do is mix up your rep ranges, keeping the majority of them between about 6 and 15 reps. So I would do an upper body day, a lower body day, rest, and then you're going to split up the next upper body. So do something like chest and shoulders, legs, and then back and arms. You can split those 2 uppers any way you want. That's just one example, but then you'll rest again after that and keep repeating that cycle. You also want to make sure you're pushing close to failure. Most people leave way too much in the tank to get a whole lot out of their training. So if those last few reps aren't challenging, the weight's not slowing down, if it's not uncomfortable and pretty much physically causing you pain, you're not challenging yourself enough to get the most out of it. I'm not saying go to failure every single set. In fact, you don't want to do that. So I recommend doing usually 3 to 4 sets per exercise, leaving 1 or 2 reps in the tank until the last set, and then if you'd like to, you can go to failure as long as it's a safe movement to do so. You also don't want to rush through this. You want to rest between your sets. I usually recommend about 2 to 3 minutes for your bigger compound movements, 1 to 2 minutes for your smaller isolation movements, and you can certainly do more because again, the more you rest between sets, the more recovered you're going to be, and the more weight you're going to be able to do for each subsequent set, and again, produce more training volume. So one of the recurring themes you're getting from me here is recovery is important, and we're going to talk more about that towards the end of this video, but you do want to make sure you're taking deloads roughly every 6 weeks or so. If your body can't recover, you will stop making progress, and if you never feel like you need a deload, well then you're probably not training hard enough. All right, let's get into the cardio side of things, and most people when they think of cardio, they think of running, but to me, walking is the most optimal thing you can do when it comes to fat loss. Part of this is because when you have activity at lower intensities like this, your body uses that body fat to fuel your exercise, so that's coming straight from your fat stores. So this is why I recommend sticking more to walking and maybe adding in a small amount of other forms of cardio you may like. So I usually recommend around 7 to 10,000 steps a day. I also recommend taking a 10-minute walk after each of your meals if you can. This will help aid in the digestion, so stay active. Anyway, that brings me to step 2, the nutrition side of things, and what I can promise you the answer is crash dieting is not the answer. It's only going to destroy your metabolism and make the process go horribly. So you gotta fuel your body, and all calories have certain macronutrients. You've got your carbs, your fat, and your protein. Protein is far and away the most important of those 3. Research has consistently shown diets that are higher in protein lead to more muscle gain, more fat loss, and help control hunger. So to do what I consider to be the most optimal thing you can do, I would eat 1 gram per pound of your body weight. Unless you're obese, then you can do more of like a goal weight, and then it's also more optimal to space it out pretty evenly. I personally think the best way to do it is to space it out so it gets evenly distributed 4 times per day, about 5 hours apart. So if you ate at like 7 in the morning, noon, 5 p.m., 10, don't get stressed out about it, but roughly that way you can take advantage of the anabolic response more times per day and get the most of your protein. And then when it comes to your carbs and fat, remember they all have value, so please don't look at carbs as the enemy. But I do recommend about 25% of your calories to come from fat, and this is to aid in things like hormone production and nutrient uptake, and then the rest of your calories are going to come from carbs, and this is going to fuel your performance. It's your body's main energy source. And don't worry, don't go anywhere. I'm going to show you at the end of the video how many calories you should be eating eating and how to create the perfect calorie deficit. The other way you can use nutrition to optimize things is to make sure you're eating plenty of nutrient-dense foods. If you know me at all, you know I don't like to look at foods as good or bad. I don't like to ban any certain foods because it typically leads to binging mentality. So I don't want you to feel like you're doing something wrong if you have something you enjoy in moderation. However, that doesn't mean food quality doesn't matter. And if you want to fuel the body the best you can, you want to eat plenty of minimally processed whole foods. Think of foods that if you don't eat them relatively soon after you buy them, they're going to go bad. They're going to have more micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals. They're going to help you feel full. Another critical component to your nutrition, one of the biggest things I see in people who are unable to lose body fat the way they want because they don't measure their food on a food scale. When you're eyeballing portion sizes and you're taking extra bites and tastes that you're not accounting for, this can add up to hundreds and hundreds of calories if you're not careful. And of course, it's okay to not measure when you physically can't, if you're going out to eat or at a friend's house or something like that. I'm not saying that you can't go enjoy your life. It's just when you can control your food, control how much you're eating. And then there's two other things you can do with your nutrition to optimize things. If possible, I would sandwich your training in between two of your protein containing meals. And I also think it's a good idea to get around maybe 25 to 30% of your carbs both pre and post workout as well. Pre-workout to help with the performance of the workout, post-workout because your nutrient uptake is going to be better. So your total numbers are the biggest thing, but it's one little thing you can do to try to optimize things as much as possible. Now that brings me to step 3. You cannot make progress if your body does not recover. So with that, I'm going to go over 4 other things you can consider with your recovery methods, with the last absolutely being the most important. The first thing is getting plenty of sleep. Sleep is basically when your body recovers. And there's more and more research coming out all the time showing that people who don't get as much sleep, don't lose as much fat, lose more muscle, have slower resting metabolic rates. And that's not even factoring in that when you're really tired, typically this is when your mood drops, you have a harder time sticking into plan. So if you want to get great results, you can't skimp out on the sleep. The next factor is managing stress levels. I know this world is full of stress right now. I'm not saying it's easy. However, it's important to reduce your stress if you want to get good results, because when you have high stress, your cortisol levels go through the roof, and there's all kinds of negative implications, both physiologically as well as psychologically, not the least of which is it can have a fat loss blunting effect. So an important thing to remember with stress is there's literally nothing in life that can happen to you that can cause stress. The only thing that causes the stress is how you react to the thing that does happen. If you start feeling really stressed out, stop and ask yourself, okay, what can I do about it? If there's nothing you can do about it, then it's not worth worrying and stressing about. It's only going to make things worse. The third other thing you can do is make sure you're staying well hydrated. Drink plenty of water. Staying well hydrated is going to help with your performance. It's going to help with nutrient uptake. It's going to help across the board. So the RDA recommends 80 ounces a day for women and 120 ounces for men. Of course, there is so much variability between individuals. So I usually say, okay, try to get at least around half of your body weight in pounds in ounces of water, but really don't get too stressed about it. Your urine should be mostly clear and you don't feel thirsty very often. And if these things are happening, you should be good. And the fourth thing to help with recovery is making sure that you don't eat in too big of a calorie deficit and that you're backing off sometimes, giving yourself diet breaks where you eat around maintenance because your body's too adaptive. It's going to fight you too hard. It's going to impact your hormones. Your metabolism is going to slow down more. And if you're not eating any calories, your body won't recover properly and you're just going to stall out. Even if you lose a lot of weight at first, you're never going to get all the way to that shredded look you want. So the big question is, how big of a calorie deficit should you be in? Well, to get the answer to that question, check out this top video up here. And if you put that video together with this one, you're going to be on your way to losing that belly fat.